he missed the beginning of the season. Now at the wheel of the Indianapolis entry is quarterback Jeff George.
This is my team, and the team's only going to go as far as Jeff George takes them. If I'm rolling good, the team's going to roll.
A pro quarterback and a race car driver must make sense of the chaos before them. Of course, their performance is most vital and has the greatest effect on the team. Heroics by either can lift their entire team. Mistakes by either can be disastrous. Although the Colts won't be the first to take the checkered flag this season, it's up to Jeff George to correct his team's current slide and to step on it, because there's still some racing to do.
We have 6 games left and no time to let up. So full speed ahead, and hopefully we can look pretty good.
Tonight, the San Diego Chargers race the Indianapolis Colts on ABC's Monday Night Football. A perfect 70 degrees on the inside, where tonight the San Diego Chargers are in town to take on the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. Hello again, everyone. Frank Gifford with Al Michaels and Dan Deerdorf. A game tonight where both the Chargers and the Colts desperately need a win. Both teams came into this season with great expectations. The Colts last year were 9-7. That was coming off a 1-15 season in 1991. They limp in tonight 3-7. Meanwhile, the San Diego Chargers won it all a year ago in the AFC West. They were 11-5 a year ago. They beat Kansas City in the playoffs before losing to Miami. They got off to a very tough start this year. They are 4-6. But Al, when you talk to the Charger players and their coaches, you get the sense that they feel they can still make a run for it. And they had those 2 streaks of a year ago, 11 out of the last 12, and they won 7 in a row to finish. Maybe they can.
They do. And Frank, a lot of people thought this team was good enough to get to the Super Bowl. Right now they're fighting for their postseason lives. They need to score more offensively. They're averaging only 16 points a game. And to that end, back they go with Stan Humphries, who led them to those 11 regular season wins last year. He was injured, suffered a badly bruised shoulder in preseason, hasn't been 100% since, but back in the starting lineup tonight to try to get them regenerated. Defensively, they have to step it up as well. Last year, they were dominating defensively. This year, they are giving up a lot of yardage. We asked Coach Bobby Ross last night what it would take to get to the playoffs. He said 6 straight wins. Tonight, number 1. So San Diego, a team that hasn't lived up to expectations, and they've got some company, Dan, when they look across the field at the Indianapolis Colts.
These are 2 teams, Al, you're right, that both thought that they were going to be in the playoffs this year. Indianapolis is farther away. They were so pleased to end up, as Frank said, 9-7 last year because they finished with 5 consecutive wins. They knew they had a problem, though. Jeff George was getting beat up badly in the pocket, getting sacked more than he should. So what they did was they went out and they got 2 big-time free agent offensive linemen in Kirk Loudermilk and Will Wolford. Between the 2 are going to make almost $5 million this year. Then what happens? No quarterback. Jeff George decides not to come to training camp. He has a 36-day holdout. He gets fined $144,000. He doesn't start until the 6th week of the season. The Colts offense is just now beginning to round into form. But guess what? It's almost December, and it's too late.
Here at the Hoosier Dome, a less-than-capacity crowd. They did not sell enough seats to lift the blackout, so no local telecast in Indy tonight. The Chargers to kick off. John Carney to put it in the air. And he sends it into the end zone. Clarence Verdun from a couple of yards in. And Verdun, who's been plagued by fumbles in the last couple of games, nearly breaks it. Turns the corner, but is forced out of bounds up at the 25-yard line. Now the Colts. Offensively, Jeff George, after that preseason holdout, now starting his 6th consecutive game. And he is backed up by Anthony Johnson, who is mainly used as a receiver, a good-looking rookie, Roosevelt Potts. Hester and Langhorne are the wideouts, and Kerry Cash, the tight end. Then up front, Dan touched on the revamped offensive line featuring Wolford and Loudermilk, along with Dixon, Schultz, and Moss. 1st and 10, Indianapolis from the 25-yard line. And they begin on the ground, and they begin with Anthony Johnson, who picks up about 3 to the 28-yard line. Now let's take a look at the San Diego defensive unit, which has really been decimated by injuries this season and defections. Mims, Lee, Winter, and O'Neill up front. Burt Grossman underwent shoulder surgery. He's gone for the year. Hendrickson, Plummer, and the great Junior Seau, number 55. And then Frank with Darian Gordon, their top draft choice. At the corners, Carrington and Richard are the safeties. Second down, 8 from the 27-yard line. Johnson this time a split to the right. Potts is the sole running back. And this is Roosevelt Potts spinning, but going nowhere. Stopped by Chris Mims. Potts, a second-round draft choice from Northeast Louisiana, and he has taken over as their feature running back.
Coming in tonight, a bit of a question mark with the hamstring that forced him out of the action against Buffalo in the first quarter last week. A rookie and a big one, 6 feet, 250-pounder.
Third down and 8. Out of the shotgun. They split Anthony Johnson wide to the left. Potts stays in the block. George throws. Catch is made up at the 39-yard line by Jesse Hester. And every time you begin to wonder about Jeff George and how much talent he has, take a look at a pass like that. Zip right there.
I've talked to a couple different personnel people around the league, and when you talk about Jeff George and strictly throwing the football, the only other name you hear mentioned is Dan Marino. The release, the velocity, the ability to throw that deep out like we just saw right there. This is a unique and rare talent in Jeff George. It's just that he's not the total package yet. There still seems to be a few things missing, but those things, a lot of people think more often than not are between the ears.
Pass a little bit high, but hauled in by Hester as George retreats, throws again, and there's that out again to the other side, caught by Reggie Langhorne, who was covered by Darian Gordon. Another first down.
I'll just go out on the limb. I've never seen anyone throw a football like Jeff George. And this is an out, about a 25-yard out. It's just on a line. Not bad coverage back there by Gordon, the rookie out of Stanford. Is going to see a lot of action tonight. He's filling in for Van Horst, but he can smoke that ball. His timing is great. He throws away from the defender, and that's very unusual. Very few quarterbacks do that. He can throw into coverage because he throws behind the receiver when he has that coverage. He is an amazing passer.
First down at the San Diego 49-yard line. This is Anthony Johnson. And he's taken down behind the line of scrimmage. They're back in Colt territory. Gary Plummer, the first to get to him, and Steve Hendrickson finishes him off.
You know, I made the mention about Jeff George and the total package, and I said, you know, some of the problem seems to be between his ears. One thing I don't want to imply that it's a lack of football sense. That's certainly not the case at all, or a lack of what's going on the field. It's just throughout his career, whether it be collegiately or here in Indianapolis, he's been plagued by curious decisions, by what he wants from the game of football, what he's willing to devote to the game of football. And a lot of people question how badly he wants to play the game of football.
Second and 13. It's caught underneath by Kerry Cash, and he's out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Ted Marchabroda in his second year, and he is the guy who's got to bring George along. And when you talk about Jeff George, one word always comes up no matter whom you talk to, and that word is maturity.
Well, Teddy Marchabroda is the guy to have around, too. #1 draft pick as a quarterback himself a lot of years ago. But he was the one that has developed a lot of quarterbacks around this league. You think back when he was head coach at Baltimore, Burt Jones. He was very important in bringing Jim Kelly along in the no-huddle offense. So he is a perfect coach for young Jeff George.
On third down and 5. George buying time, finds the open man. Caught at the 29 by Jesse Hester. And another first down on a very good-looking opening drive for the Indianapolis Colts.
You know, Dan, now remember the first exhibition game we came here against Philadelphia? Yeah. The very first time he dropped out of the pocket, chased out of the pocket. Buddy Ryan coaching the defense for Philadelphia. We said if Buddy would shoot everyone, they did. It was the same kind of a move. He was forced out of the pocket. He moved out to the right. We'll watch Jesse Hester here. But he was throwing the ball off balance, fired it on a line as pretty as you're ever going to see.
Well, as good as the throw was, the catch by Hester was even better. Ball is pad behind him and hidden traffic. That was good work on both ends of that pass play.
From the 26-yard line, Anthony Johnson is going to throw, and it's too short and intercepted at the 7-yard line, picked off by Stanley Richards. Jesse Hester had beaten Richard, and the pass was underthrown.
Jeff George is perfect throwing the football, so you let Anthony Johnson throw the ball? Not a good call. They're moving the ball so well.
You could see when Johnson threw it that he was off balance. He was jumping up in the air and jumping backwards and got nothing on it.
Now it's time for our regular feature on what's new in the world of sports science and technology.
Well, it is the Hoosier Dome, and now we see a lot more domes here. The skull caps aren't nearly as scary as the masks were, though, back in Halloween of '88. That's right. I'd rather look at the bald heads than 20,000 of each of us staring back at us. That was eerie.
Might set a new fashion precedent. Who knows?
I don't think so. Let's take a look at the San Diego Chargers. Stan Humphries, hurt in preseason, as we mentioned, started the first 4 regular season games. Has been coming off the bench, and now starting tonight. They start from the 2-yard line, off the play fake, a ton of time, and then he drops it off underneath from Marion Butts, and the big running back takes it out to the 15 for a gain of 13 yards. The rest of the San Diego offense now, they begin in the backfield behind Stan Humphries with Butts. We'll also see a lot of a good-looking rookie, Natron Means. Miller and Lewis are the wideouts. They use a lot of double tight end with Young and Walker. Swain, Zandowski, Hall, Capuzzo, and the longtime New Orleans veteran Brock up front. They've been decimated along the offensive line this year. Here's Butts. After the 18 in particular, they really miss Eric Moulton. He's gone for the season. Defensively now, and Indianapolis has had to revamp because of injuries there. Defensive front, Hand, McClendon, Clancy, and they move Bickett from a linebacking spot to right end. Then Radisick, Quentin Coriat in his second year, and the veteran Harrod are the linebackers. Ambrose and Daniel are the corners. Baylor and Belzer in what has been a very vulnerable secondary. 2nd and 7. Humphries, chase, throws, incomplete, threw it behind Marion Butts, his new favorite receiver.
I think McClendon might have got a piece of that. Every one of the front 4 now of Indianapolis is playing a different position. By putting Bickett at an end, every other guy up there has adjusted. There's McClendon, 95. Let's see if he doesn't get a right hand on the ball. He sure does right there. But they put Bickett down from a linebacker. He goes to a defensive end. Hand switches defensive ends. Clancy moves inside. An entirely different look here for the Colts.
3rd and 7. Humphries stepping up, throws. It's deflected and caught by Miller as San Diego gets a big break. Nate Lewis was the intended receiver. He deflected it, and Miller winds up with a reception. It's a 30-yard gain out to the Charger 49-yard line.
Humphrey steps back into the pocket. There's a deflection right off the hand of Nate Lewis and right into the hands of Anthony Miller, and this came dangerously close to a 6-pointer. Miller can't fly.
Once was a day in the National Football League. That would have been an illegal play, but the rule was changed a number of years ago.
Miller with a 52 catches leads the team, and Humphries airs it out and throws it out of bounds. Good coverage. Miller, the intended receiver, and Chris Good was right there with him step for step.
Perfect coverage by Good. Absolutely perfect. And if you're going to pick one receiver to run with, it's got to be Anthony Miller. He is the go-to guy.
Look how far Good is playing off.
This was obviously with that coverage Good was going to play, not the pass route, the call. Something along the lines of a 7-yard curl might have been the right pattern.
Right. I think that would get their attention.
Well, that won't tighten Good up, that's for sure.
2nd and 10, no score, 8:26 left in the opening quarter. Humphries deep drop, throws it out, and is lucky that one wasn't picked off. Eugene Daniel drew a bead on it as he broke in front of Johnny Barnes, and I think he was thinking about the end zone.
Good look at the different velocity of Stan Humphries trying to throw that out as compared to Jeff George. And it gave Eugene Daniel a chance to close on the ball hanging up there. Daniels with a good play defensively.
3rd and 10, Bobby Ross in his second year. His team going up against the Colts, who are last in the league defensively. 3rd and 10. That means they've given up more yards than any other team in the league. And the pass is underthrown, intended for Nate Lewis. 4th down. John Kidd, the punt. The line of scrimmage is the 49. Clarence Verdun, no stranger to the Pro Bowl, but who's been plagued by fumbles in recent weeks, back to receive. Verdun's going to let it go, and it bounces into the end zone, and the Colts will begin their next drive from the 20-yard line. 51 gross, 31 net, 8:09 to go. No score, first quarter. Colts have it. Their second drive. Their first ended on an interception after a very promising beginning. This is Potts, and Frank had mentioned that he'd been bothered with a hamstring pull. Potts, in fact, did not practice all week, but he's responded, and here he is. Indianapolis this season, ragged starts in almost all of their games. They've scored only 1 touchdown in the first quarter all season, and that was on a fumble return on opening day. 2nd and 8 from the 22-yard line. Out of a double tight end set, the fake to Potts. The pass is high, intended for Jesse Hester. Covered on the play by Stanley Richard and Darian Gordon. It'll be 3rd down and 8.
I think Stanley Richard coming across from the safety position is the guy that really scared Jeff George into throwing that ball high, and wisely so. I think at the last minute he sees Richard coming and decides he better elevate that thing up there where it's out of reach of everybody. It's going to be a tough night for the Colts if they don't become more successful running the football. George is a wonderful talent, but he's got to have something along the lines of a decent running game to help support him somewhat.
3rd and 8 from the 22-yard line out of the shotgun. 4-man Charger rush. Good protection. First down. Catch is made by Jesse Hester, who was the Raiders' first-round draft choice in 1985. Never really panned out with the Raiders. Went to Atlanta briefly, and he's found a home here in Indianapolis.
And he found a victim over in the left corner. Just a strong drive, depending upon the strong arm of George. And you've got to play Hester off just a little bit. Actually, Frank is not playing that far off the receiver. It's pretty good position he's got.
Good timing. It was a well-timed out pattern and throw.
1st and 10 at the 35. 6:45 left first quarter. No score. Chargers and Colts from the Hoosier Dome in Indy. George chased from behind and throws, and it's incomplete. Leslie O'Neal was there to try to knock it loose, but the arm was coming forward and the pass is incomplete.
Boy, it's good to see Leslie O'Neal has really come back and regained his form. This is a guy who had one of the most devastating knee injuries you could possibly imagine at the end of his rookie season. Was out 22 and a half months. A lot of people thought he would never play again. And look at that explosiveness and the ability to close that he still has. That's a remarkable comeback by a guy who's come back and become a Pro Bowl football player.
That was around Will Wolford.
Yeah. Great work by O'Neal.
2nd and 10 at the 35-yard line. Line doing a nice job, and the pass is caught up at the 45 by Sean Dawkins, close to a first down. Dawkins, a rookie from California, and they think eventually he can be something very special.
He's big. He's 6'4", 213. He is a rookie and a spectacular one. Teddy Marchibroda and I were talking about it before the game, and they do expect wonderful things from him. He has 4.5 speed. He had tough sledding earlier in the year, particularly against Washington in a game that Indianapolis, frankly, could have won if he had to drop 3 footballs in that particular game.
Well, we touched on his size, and that's where the game is going. The Michael Irvins of the world, the big, tall, physical receivers. And at 6'4", 213, Dawkins has it all in that respect. He'll be able to muscle up with any quarterback he feels like.
Anthony Johnson needs the attention on the Colts bench. His spot taken by Rodney Culver. Split back formation here. 1st and 10. Up at the 45-yard line, and they give it to Culver, who escapes what would have been a 7-yard loss and brings it back to the line of scrimmage where Darian Gordon, the rookie from Stanford, comes up to take care of him after a missed tackle by Leslie O'Neal.
I'm not the official statistician. We'll look it up, but Bill Arnsparger there's defense is doing a great job against the Colts in their running game. They are doing absolutely nothing to help out their passing game. Leslie O'Neal almost makes the play on this one, reads it, but Culver gets around the corner. But what's he get? He gets maybe 2 inches on the play. And again, the Colts are forced into a 2nd and long situation.
2nd and 10 at the 45. No score. 5:05 left in the first quarter. George, time to set up, and has that one nearly intercepted by Junior Seau. He threw into a lot of traffic, intended for Jesse Hester. It'll be 3rd and 9.
George holds the ball in a rather peculiar way. Maybe we can get a shot of it a little later on. He holds the ball like a Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw, the back of the football, and treats it almost like a baseball. We'll get a good look at it there. Director Craig Janoff, I'm sure, will find one. This one he threw behind the defensive back. He has a great sense of where he is putting the football. An amazing sense, I think.
3rd and 9. The Colts are 3 for 3 on 3rd down tonight. Pressure from O'Neal. He feels it. He steps up and he slides the hole, but short of the first down. He slides down at the San Diego 49, and that provokes a chorus of boos.
Well, I don't know if they're booing the passing game or booing the fact that O'Neal gets by Wolford and flushes George out of the pocket. You see the hand fighting. That is just an explosive upfield rush and around the corner move by O'Neal, almost the way that Bruce Smith looks like when he goes around that corner.
I think they're booing the fact that George didn't get the first down, that he slid a little too early.
He was very wise. He'll live to fight another day.
Yes.
He might have been spreading it around. You're right.
On start, punts and angles in, and it bounces straight up in the air and is down at the 4-yard line. Ray Buchanan downs it there. Chargers start deep in their own territory. 4:12 left in the first.
Jeff George on the sideline, potentially one of the great ones. He handles the ball in a rather unique way. The index finger on the back of the ball. That time, maybe just a nervous gesture. He completely flips the ball, but keep in mind, he has also not fumbled the ball this year.
Whatever it takes. Chargers began their 2nd drive of the game. Each has begun from the 3-yard line. This time, Marion Butts takes it out to the 5. It'll be 2nd and 8. Quentin Coryat makes the tackle. Bobby Ross, a college coach at Maryland, and he turned around a moribund Georgia Tech program and won a partial national championship. And then Bobby Bethard said, "Do you want to go to the NFL?" And he said, "Yeah, right time in my life in his 2nd season."
Of course, he had come to know Bobby Bethard and the Redskins when he coached in Maryland.
2nd and 8. The catch is made up at the 10-yard line by Dwayne Young, the tight end. It'll be 3rd down and 3. Again, let's go back to the graphic there. That drive's begun at or inside the 20-yard line. San Diego 2 for 58 this year, converting to touchdowns. Granted, the league average is low, but 2 for 58 is terrible. Only the Colts, ironically, would be worse.
3 for 59 wouldn't be much better, but it would certainly be meaningful right now.
3rd down and 2. A long 2 from the 12. And it's Ronnie Harmon out to the 15. That's an interesting utilization of Harmon, who's a 3rd down back. They throw to him a lot. He caught 79 balls last year. They use him on the ground here. It's his 30th carry of the year, and he picks up a 1st down.
Former Buffalo player Teddy Monteroto worked with up there, but a lot of people call him Quicksilver. He's just slippery back there. He's the most amazing receiver out of the backfield, probably in the league today. 79 receptions a year ago. A whole bunch of them were 1st down.
2:20 left, first quarter. 0-0. 1st and 10. Humphreys protected well. Catch is made by Walker, and he is down. There is no fumble. It's a 6-yard gain. He was blasted by Jeff Harrod, and Eugene Daniel helped out.
Derek Walker having to play hurt. He's going to require knee surgery when the season is over. But he's a valuable receiver here to the San Diego Chargers. And this one comes out. Let's see, was he down? Very close. The ball looked like it started to come loose before the knee hit the ground, but pretty tough to detect when you're watching at full speed.
Here's Marion Butts plowing his way for a gain of 5. He takes it out to the 26-yard line. The Chargers like to use Butts early, and then they bring in a guy who's just about as big eventually, and Natron Means, the rookie from North Carolina.
Already a good drive, though, for San Diego. They've moved the ball out beyond their 25. If it ended right here, it's still a pretty successful drive when you consider it started inside their 5.
Sam Clancy out, Willis Pegues in along the defensive front. 1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. The fake to Butts that buys time for Humphreys, and he finds the open man. That is Sean Jefferson out to the 44-yard line. Tackled there by Chris Gould.
Give a lot of credit to the offensive line, and also Butts, who picked up the blitz, one of the rare blitz on the part of Indianapolis, and you can see a safety blitz. They brought number 36, John Baylor, and of course that gives you single coverage downfield. It picked them up, and they had time to throw the football.
17-yard gain, 1st and 10 at the 44-yard line. Nate Lewis in motion. Little toss back to Butts. And he gets upended as he reaches the 50-yard line. Jeff Perrott makes the tackle, and that will be the final play of the first quarter.
Good, solid work on the line of scrimmage by Bobby Ross's San Diego club, and right now they're making the Colts look like the 27th rated defensive unit in the NFL that they are.
Into the first quarter with no score. Back we come with the second quarter of Monday Night Football after this commercial message and a word from our ABC stations.
This one even worse than the one he sustained his rookie year, and he has a long road back.
And on 2nd and 3, as we start the second quarter, the catch is made by Anthony Miller, who got position on Eugene Daniel, and that will be a first down.
Good read, too, by Stan Humphreys. He got the single coverage he wanted, Miller against Daniel.
First quarter stats. Teams moving up and down the field, but nothing on the board. 94 total yards for San Diego, 79 for Indy.
But you notice rushing only 7 yards for the Colts. That must get better.
First minute of play, second quarter. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf at the Hoosier Dome. Chargers and Colts are scoreless. And first down, Humphreys going deep, and the catch is made by Sean Jefferson for a touchdown. Magnificent.
Daniel trying to cover him man for man.
The touchdown was magnificent. The drive even better. 95 plus.
And what a well-thrown football by Stan Humphreys. That ball taken right in stride by the speedy Jefferson. Good protection. It began right there, and he let it go early, hung it up high. Jefferson had blown by Eugene Daniel, and great concentration to look it into the hands, because Daniel did get a paw in there.
He did. Looked like he even had a hand on the football, didn't it? Great work by Jefferson controlling the ball.
Good work. 97-yard drive. John Carney for the point after. John Kidd to hold. It's nearly blocked, but he boots it through, and they keep waiting for Sean Jefferson to emerge. And maybe his time has come in his 3rd year in the league, his 2nd touchdown reception of the season.
And go ahead and amend that graphic. The Chargers are 3 of 59 now.
Bobby Beathard, the general manager, and Bobby Ross, the head coach, hoping that he could jumpstart the offense, and he has done just that. 7-0 San Diego. John Carney to kick off. Clarence Verdun and Rodney Culver back to receive. And Verdun waits for it at the goal line.
Oh!
And gets hammered as he reaches the 17-yard line. There's a marker down, however, back at the 35-yard line, which means that one of the Chargers was offside.
I think several of them were off. Now, they don't call it very often, but that was really blatant that time.
Terry Crews, number 51, that we've got jogging off, was slow to get up. This was a major collision.
Ron Blum is the referee tonight.
You often hear it, but you don't often feel it.
On the kicking team, 5 yards. Free kick from the 30-yard line.
Frank, I think that's a good description. We could feel that up here. Watch this.
Dan only goes 160 pounds.
Oh, and then Cruz, unfortunately, got it on the helmet from one of his own teammates. That was a big shot. Verdun just pops right up. He's pound for pound, obviously not a very big guy at 162 pounds, but he's taken his share of licks in this league, and he bounces back. You wonder, I can't conceive of being 162 pounds and flying up the field with guys running just as fast coming at you. There's Cruz, who weighs 245.
You got an arm that weighs 162.
Yeah, really, how do you summon the courage to do that at 162 pounds?
And he does it time after time.
Oh.
That's the way you run a kickoff back, though. I mean, you got to hit that gap at full bore like he was blowing. I mean, you're going to go a long way with it. You don't come up there and run a kickoff. No, you well know, Dan, dancing around. You got to do it that way.
Kind of the way a defensive back comes in on a safety blitz.
You think about it as an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, sometimes it could be. Just better to be out of their body than out of your body.
Carney's kick. This time it's taken at the 9, and it's fumbled. And it is batted back in bounds. It will be batted out by Terry Cruz. He was also involved in it. He came up with the football eventually. And the officials will now confer at the 12-yard line.
That was Verdun who muffed the ball. He never had possession of it. It just bounces right off his chest.
Kicking team player was the last to touch the ball before it went out of bounds. We have a kickoff out of bounds. It'll be Indianapolis's ball, 1st and 10 on the 40-yard line.
Well, what a break for the Colts.
The Chargers never controlled that ball, so there's no way they're going to get it.
No, but it's the field position.
Yeah.
They're going to bring it all the way up to the 40.
That's a rule that should be rethought.
Yes,
that's really ridiculous.
But that was a good play by Derwin
the
Gray
rule.
to get it back in the playing field. It looked like he did. Ball is out of bounds. Pope gets it back in bounds, so that ball never should have been ruled out of bounds.
Right, exactly.
Recovered by San Diego.
In days of yore with replay, it would have been San Diego's ball inside the 10-yard line.
I will have to agree, Al, as much as I'm glad we're not looking at the replay.
So what a huge break for the Colts as they take over at the 40-yard line. And George, off the play fake, throws. It is juggled, and it is incomplete at the 50-yard line. It's a huge break on 2 counts. Number one, they shouldn't even have possession. But secondly, going back to what I mentioned going to commercial, Dan, it's a weird rule where if you fumble the ball and you fumble it out of bounds, in effect, they're awarding you another 27, 28 yards in that instance.
I couldn't agree with you more. Did you notice when the official threw the flag? He threw the flag after the ball had already been recovered by San Diego, and the guy stepped out of bounds when he was running with the football. That's when the flag was thrown. That was a kind of a bizarre timing of the throwing of the flag.
2nd down and 10 at the 40-yard line. And the catch is made. There's a quick out to Jesse Hester, throwing it right on a string.
Now, let's go back and take it. Here's what I'm talking about. All right, here's Pope. He swats the ball back. All right. Now, Terry Cruz, who's going to come in 51, he gets the ball, and right here he gets up, and he steps out. Here comes the flag. All right, it looked like he was reaching for the flag earlier. All right, the flag did come out late, but it did look like the official was kind of struggling to get it out of his belt.
Well, a botched call, as it turned out. On a pickup here by Rodney Culver of 5, he takes it from the 47 down to the 42-yard line.
It looks like Clarence has a shaving problem coming up this week.
Yes.
Did that happen on that kickoff return, the first one?
It could very well have. Boy, and that's Frank. You've been there. That's one of those spots that you get it there, and it doesn't go away. It'll be the end of January until that heals up.
You just don't smile the rest of the year.
He'll have a goatee the next time we see him. 2nd and 6 at the 44. Early 2nd quarter. Chargers leading 7-0. Culver behind Potts, but a great play by Junior Seau to tackle him from behind.
Oh, he just eats that kind of play up. You pull 2 guards in front of Junior Seau. He's in behind the lead guard, and he is so quick and so fast. He reads the 2 guards pulling right here. Boom, he makes the play.
But right there, when he heads upfield, is normally, whereas a defensive coach, you take your guy in the film room and say, you can't do this. You'll be behind the play. That's a bad angle. You can't. Well, with Junior, you let him go wherever he wants. When you have that kind of speed, you take any angle you want because you're going to get them.
3rd and 10, back at the San Diego 48-yard line, and is moving on the right side. And the right tackle moving for the tight end, perhaps, for the Colts. Could have been Kerry Cash.
Yeah, it was Cash, Al, who popped up.
False start prior to the snap. 88 offense. 5 yards. Repeat 3rd down.
Kerry Cash is the twin brother of the Chiefs tight end, Keith Cash, who caught a touchdown pass from Joe Montana yesterday.
You know, that was one of the things that maybe might not happen had Jeff George been in training camp and working day in, day out, going with it, changing the line at the line of scrimmage in practice. They've never had a practice session with him. He came in, he started 5 games ago, and he just has not had that much work with this offensive line.
3rd and 15, 4-man rush, great protection, and he zooms one complete to the 31 into the arms of Sean Dawkins.
Come on, Sean. It's not that good.
Yeah, but when you've only won 3 games, A, you'll do anything sitting in the stands, and B, the team gets excited over little things.
He dropped one like that in Washington. They would have got the Colts the 1st down inside the 20-yard line.
One big difference between this year and last year is the Colts, in a sense, have gotten what they paid for in terms of vastly improved play on their offensive line. Jeff George saw excellent pass protection on that particular play, and Loudermilk and Wolford have been big reasons.
George over 100 yards, 19 minutes into the game as Roosevelt Potts bangs his way to the 27-yard line.
George knows that Ted Marchibroda beefed up his offensive line, and he has done just that. They gave up 44 sacks last year. This year they have 16 they've given up coming in through 10 games. They're protecting him a lot better, and he knows it.
2nd and 5. Rodney Culver just across the 25-yard line, and will set up a 3rd and short. The Colts have been a very ineffective rushing team in 45 of the last 58 games going back over 4 seasons. Fewer than 100 yards on the ground, and that's the most such over that span by any team since 1947. And tonight, George is doing it in the air, on the ground, nothing. 1.4 per rush. 3rd and 3 from the 25-yard line, 9:45 left. First half, 7-0 San Diego. 4-man rush, running stunt, and O'Neal gets to him first. Leslie O'Neal, the first to get to him for the sack.
That could have taken him out of field goal range.
Boy, what an inside move by Leslie O'Neal. They call this the swim. You start upfield, and then you make a move to the inside. You hit with your left, take that right arm, swim it up over the top, and a textbook move there by Leslie O'Neal. Watch him here on the left. There's the swim move to the inside. Look how cleanly he beats Will Wolford and smothers Jeff George. Leslie O'Neal is turning in a performance so far as good as the defensive end can.
Dean Biasucci will attempt a 53-yard field goal. Ron Stark to hold. The kick is no good.
Plenty of distance. His best is 55, so he was right on the edge.
Boy, just hooked.
Yep.
Right at the last minute. Halfway there, I thought he had it.
And give that 0 to Leslie O'Neal. You did that at lunch today, didn't you?
Yeah.
Very well.
Read that a number of years ago. I think it's right.
I heard it on Monday night.
Yes. First down for San Diego from the 35-yard line as Humphreys throws, and it's caught at the 50-yard line by Anthony Miller. He's at midfield, and that's a Charger first down with San Diego on top, 7-0.
It's almost like Stan Humphreys was listening to us today. I can do that too. He threw about a 25-yard out and right on the money, away from the defender, and Miller making a good drive on the defensive back, Chris Good, but a well-thrown ball by Humphries.
8:55 left in the half. Ronnie Harmon is in on first down. They swing him into the pattern, and Humphries flips it to Harmon. And Ronnie cannot stake out Eugene Daniel and then pays the price. Well, next week we go to Irving, Texas, and this has turned into be one of the more interesting and intriguing games of the season. The Eagles got off to that great start, destroyed by injuries, but rebound with a win yesterday, 5-6, against the Cowboys, and all of a sudden now, after 2 straight losses and an amazing game against Miami on Thanksgiving Day, it's a critical game for Dallas. They're a game back of the Giants in the NFC East. Dallas and Philly next Monday night. 2nd and 9. This is Natron Means, the rookie from North Carolina. And Means gets it to the 43-yard line. Tackled there by Jason Belzer.
The Giants go down and play Miami next week. That's turned into some race. Great job by Danny Reeves. Certainly right up there in the voting for Coach of the Year. I don't think there's any question about that.
Third down and a short 4 at the Indianapolis 43-yard line. Humphries with a deep drop and throwing deep and too deep, intended for Sean Jefferson.
Trying to split the zone, and pretty good read by Humphries. He laid it up there, gave Jefferson a possibility, but he was not going to throw it into the crowd as Jefferson tried to split the 2 deep defensive Colts.
4th down, line of scrimmage is the Indy 43. John Kidd, whose first punt tonight, went into the end zone, 51 gross, but only 31 net. Clarence Verdun is back to receive the kick. We'll see if Kidd can angle this one out of bounds. Going for the right corner. And it bounces at the 9. And takes a good bounce for San Diego because they can down it at the 2-yard line. Indy is backed up. Well, San Diego's got 97 yards, and then we'll find out if Indy can go 98. The playoff hunt for the San Diego Chargers. They've lost a couple of excruciating games. If Humphries can find the range, and he seems to be on his game tonight, that could make some difference for this team.
Well, and it's not like we're not talking about a team that's not used to going on streaks. After the dismal start last year, they rebound and end up with, what, 11-5. So this is a football team that when Bobby Ross talks about winning the last 6, they did it last year, so they certainly know they could do it again.
You talk to them, they really believe it, too. And if you go 11 out of 12, as they did last year, beat Kansas City 17-0 before getting knocked out by Miami, they feel they can do this again. But this is a different team, particularly defensive. They lost both cornerbacks, Blaylock and Gilbert, and that has really hurt them defensively. Grossman is out of there now, and this is a different defensive team than they were last year.
They have to win tonight. There's no question about that. The next 2 games are at home. They play Denver and Green Bay back in San Diego. 2nd down and 9. Jeff George throws. The catch is made. It's a first down. The catch is made up at the 17-yard line by Reggie Langhorne.
Oh, and Donald Frank couldn't have played it better. That ball was just thrown in there right at the belt buckle into Reggie Langhorne. Difficult ball to catch. George had a lot of smoke on it, but a fine completion.
Well, here we go. Indianapolis inside their own 20. Adder inside. There's only 1 for 48. We'll see if showing this graphic could bring them the same luck that it brought San Diego, and Ted Marchibroda certainly hopes so.
1st and 10 up at the 16-yard line. George throws, and the catch is made by Hester. It's an 8-yard pickup. Pulls it in up at the 23-yard line, tackled by Donald Frank.
Guess if it works once, it'll work twice.
Donald Frank is, I think, beginning to wonder, what did I do to you? Top of your screen, this is actually a zone defense. And Hester reads it along with George, breaks it inside. Perfectly thrown ball again.
5:15 left first half. San Diego leading 7-0.
George obviously changing at the line of scrimmage, running out of time on the play clock.
And 2nd and 2. Roosevelt
change at the line of scrimmage. Huge opening, and Robert Roosevelt Potts almost killed Stanley Richard. He just went up one side and down the other.
I guess a running back reaches that point where you got to decide, am I going to run around this guy or run over him? You look at Potts. I am not going to run around this guy.
Well, weren't they questioning that he was starting to run around a lot more than he was running over? And all of a sudden he must have been listening to those questions because he just put his head down and barreled into Richard.
A lot of open field, and he didn't try to take advantage of it.
First and 10 from the 39-yard line. George throws. Nice catch is made on a pass thrown a little bit behind Jesse Hester, but he stays right with it.
And right between two defenders. The two linebackers and Jeff George, so much confidence in that arm. He just drilled it between two linebackers.
He drilled it, but again, the ball was behind Hester. This is a fabulous catch by Hester. The ball's back behind him. Frank, that's a ball, wouldn't you agree, more often than not, isn't going to get caught.
Tough to catch, but he had to throw it there. I mean, if he doesn't, it's going to get deflected or picked off.
I'm saying Jesse Hester is having a fabulous first half.
6 grabs, 6 of the 11 George completions. Second down and 1 at the 48-yard line. Nice play fake. He looked like Steve DeBerg on that one, and then it's batted away. Intended for Langhorne, a little bit underthrown, and Donald Frank is able to get an arm up.
Enough where Donald Frank, who's been harassed all night, was able to get to it. That ball underthrown, and I know Jeff would like to have that one back. This one he could have laid up. And a short yardage, they were thinking run. You can just see how Langhorne has to slow down and let Donald Frank catch him. Still a good call. You got a third and short. We were thinking you can get the first down. You've got to start at least putting the ball up deep once in a while.
Third in the yard from the 48. This is Culver. Ooh, and he cannot pick it up. Good effort, though. Darren Carrington is there to stop along with Junior Seau. And in comes Ron Stark in the punting unit.
This defense of San Diego that was ranked second in the AFC a year ago, 4th overall in the NFL, after 10 games was 23rd in the league. That's how different they were this year from last year, and that they are starting to play again like they did a year ago, hustling everybody, trying to get on the football. And this is a good example of it.
Blaze Winter, number 96, the defensive lineman for San Diego. He's the guy that botched that play for Indy. A lot of penetration.
Ron Stark with the 4th highest career average in National Football League history. Fumbled at the 9-yard line by Darian Gordon. And somehow San Diego comes up with a football.
I think Gordon was able to scratch it out of that.
Jason Belzer was right there. It was muffed, but recovered. You caught a look at Chuck Prefer, the Chargers special teams coach. Darian Gordon recovering his own fumble and keeping the ball for San Diego.
There's number 29. You're supposed to give the guy a yard. That's encroaching, I think, a bit.
Here's Laquan Means, the rookie, and he takes it from the 9 out to the 26-yard line. 2:28 to go in the first half. San Diego up 7-0.
Boy, look at the left side of the offensive line of the Chargers pull all the way over and get through on the play. Zandowski, Swain, these guys came all the way across the formation and got upfield. A well-blocked play that time by San Diego.
From the 27, Means again. Ooh, great move by Laquan Means, and he's out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Derek Walker threw the key block on that play.
What an acrobatic move by a 45-pounder.
Spotted at the 49-yard line, 25-yard gain.
He was hurdled a defensive back and came up to make the stop. This is beautiful running. Big man. Keep in mind, he's 5'10", 245 pounds, right over the pile.
Again, though, Zandowski and Swain on the left side with Walker. And Harry Swain locked up with number 50, Dwayne Pickett, a linebacker who's playing defensive end. And right now, the Chargers' offensive line starting to assert themselves.
Rick Venturi, the defensive coordinator, former head coach at Northwestern, was the interim head coach here in 1991 when they fired Ron Meyer before they hired Ted Marchabrota. And this is Natron Means in a pinball machine going nowhere.
Venturial's taken a bit of a gamble tonight in the way that he has moved everything around up front. And there's one of the gambles right there, taking Bickett, a pure linebacker, making him play down the entire game.
Timeout Chargers. Down at 9 at the 48-yard line. San Diego leading 7-0. They have 2 timeouts remaining. Ronnie Harmon for a hard yard is tackled by Skip McClendon. And the Chargers conserving their 2 timeouts. 3rd down 7 at the 47-yard line. Clock down to 1:35. John Freeze, backup quarterback now with a headset on. Humphrey throws, and the catch is made by Jefferson. He's out of bounds with a 1st down.
That's the 2nd time with this half that the Colts have gambled and come with a blitz and not gotten anywhere near Stan Humphries. Locked up with single coverage and a rather easy conversion to a 1st down.
And that left single coverage.
Yeah.
And Daniel has been beaten several times now.
Well, you can't, you know, Frank, if you're going to take the chance and blitz and lock up one-on-one back there, I think there's a time limit as to how long you can expect your guys to lock up and stay with this talented group of Charger receivers.
1st and 10 at the 38-yard line. 1:29 left in the half. Harmon, nice move. He's met and stopped at the 31-yard line by Jason Belzer. And San Diego takes its 2nd timeout with 1:19 to go in the 1st half.
Times were great blocks. That last play you saw break around the left side was because he just collapsed the interior of the Colts defensive line. He's having an all-world 1st half.
2nd and 3 at the 31. Chargers leading 7-0. And Indianapolis had come across the line, so in effect a free play as Ronnie Harmon is run out of bounds at the 27-yard line. John Hand came across the line for Indy. Sean Jefferson, meanwhile, is limping as he comes off, the wide receiver.
And pick up more yardage and the 1st down on the penalty. But this is the area where you really have to keep your eye defensively on Ronnie Harmon. And this is bad news here. John Jefferson limps off.
98 defense, 5 yards from the previous spot, 1st down.
Well, Jefferson is the man who has scored the game's only touchdown.
Or at least he's back to putting some pressure and walking over it. See him patting his thigh up high, up towards the hip.
Most of these wide receivers do not wear any thigh protection at all. An elbow or knee, and it is really painful.
1:12 left in the half. San Diego 1 timeout left. They lead 7-0. Humphries rolling and pumping and throwing and out of bounds. Threw it away under pressure. 2nd down.
There's a good look at the rule. If you're outside the pocket, there doesn't have to be a receiver anywhere in the vicinity, and that was a good look. A year ago, that might have been called intentional grounding. Stan Humphries is free to just get rid of the football any way he chooses, and that's exactly what he does right there.
You know, and the defensive lineman might have a point. It really is tough on them. They put in a great effort. That would have been either throwing the ball away a year ago or a sack.
Well, I guess the question you have to ask yourself, and it's a point well made, Frank, but
as the quarterback, are they keeping alive?
Do you want to see these guys playing in December?
2nd and 10. Humphrey throws over the middle. The catch is made by Johnny Barnes. He's inside the 10. He takes it to the 8-yard line. They have 1 timeout remaining. They'll conserve it here. It's 1st and goal.
Barnes very quick across the middle, and then realizing where he was, put the head down, got inside the 10.
He's caught only 5 balls all season coming in. Humphries, good protection, throws a fade into the end zone too far, intended for Anthony Miller.
It's been a quiet 1st half for Anthony Miller. Not a lot going on for a guy coming in with 51 catches on the season and one of the truly gifted receivers in the NFL.
He is pretty easy to take away in the sense he is their deep man. Right off the fingertips, I think he would have been out of the end zone had he even caught it. But he had more than a step on Buchanan.
This drive started at the San Diego 10. They stacked the left side, and now from unstacked, Jefferson back in the game and in motion. And the catch is made by Nate Lewis for the touchdown.
Boy, Chris Good, the defensive back on the coverage, didn't have any idea where the football was, and he just scoots right on by and not even a factor in the coverage. Boy, that's a difficult deal for a defensive back. The Chargers flood that zone over there, and Lewis pulls up and stops, and Good keeps going right on by him.
So right there, Dan. Good just got totally lost. Back there, he is playing catch-up, overruns the football. Lewis, not even difficult for him.
That climax is a 90-yard drive to go with an earlier 97-yard drive. Carney for the point after kid to put it down.
I think they're 4 out of 60 now, aren't they?
Well, they wanted to reignite that offense with Humphreys, and they have done it. First time this season, the Chargers have scored 2 touchdowns in the first half. They've had a lot of trouble scoring. They've scored only 20 points in their last 2 games. They have 3 offensive touchdowns in 5 home games this year. But tonight, under the leadership of Stan Humphreys, they have marched down the field and looked terrific.
Well, Stan Humphreys struggled with that bad shoulder earlier in the year. He was playing, but he wasn't effective. And finally, they just decided, we're going to let him get well. Set him down, and they brought on Stan Freeze, and finally, when he was healthy, the arm was strong again. They put him back in there, and things have changed for the Chargers.
You see Rick Venturi on the sidelines talking to his guys, loading up on the gum. And he
said Stan Freeze, and John Freeze, of course.
He may be doing a lot of gum chewing here in the second half. Talking to Dwayne Bickett right there, and he is really a lot of pressure on Bickett's shoulders. He plays a down lineman in their nickel where he's a defensive end and rushes upfield, but a big difference between that sort of a nickel defensive end and having to stand in there on first down and take on double teams and 320-pound offensive linemen.
You know, Dan, he was even a better weak side linebacker than a strong side linebacker. And they moved him to strong side linebacker this year when Chip Banks got hurt, and he has really been ineffective at that point.
Well, they're missing Tony Saragusa, their talented defensive tackle. We've already chronicled that Entman is out. And this is a revamped look for the Colts up front defensively. There's Saragusa right there on the sidelines. They're hoping to have him back next week. He's got a bad ankle, and he's been steady inside for the Colts. But they are hurting defensively, and this has been a pretty dominant first half for San Diego offensively. They've got these guys backpedaling, and they went to the 4-3 defense here because of those 2 guys right there. Because of Entman and because of Saragusa, they went to the 4-man defensive line because they had that type of talent at the 2 defensive tackles position. Unfortunately, they're both in street clothes.
Jeff George on first down, and they keep it on the ground to the displeasure of the crowd. Rodney Culver steps out of bounds up at the 27-yard line, and we have our mics everywhere.
Interesting feature coming up at halftime. We talked to 5 former coaches in the NFL, including Mike Ditka and Joe Gibbs and Bill Walsh and Dick Vermeil and John Robinson about their leaving the game and whether or not they think about coming back to the game. It's very interesting, some of the insights that they offer.
The way this season's going for a couple coaches around the league, we may be able to interview a few more.
Second down and 3 up at the 30. And this is Culver again to the 32-yard line. And Indianapolis appears to be, well, they're going to stop it here.
They run for a first down when they've had no running game whatsoever, and I'm afraid it's not exactly what the fans were looking for.
Speaking of coaches, there are a few who might have been unemployed who are doing pretty well right now. Jerry Glanville and Jack Pardee, whom some insiders had fired earlier this year. And isn't it interesting to note that Bobby Ross is still the coach of the San Diego Chargers? A number of reports this week indicating that he was going to Clemson. Well, indeed, Ken Hatfield left Clemson. And then this afternoon comes the report that Tommy West leaves the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and he is the new head coach at Clemson. Bobby said, I don't know where it got started. Bobby Beathard said it got started because a couple of very prominent boosters, and there is Bobby with the owner, Alex Spanos, a couple of Clemson boosters sent a fax to the San Diego Charger office imploring Bobby Ross to come to Clemson. And that's where it got started, picked up by insiders. And you too can dial 1-900-SCHLEMIEL and get inside information in the NFL as well.
Did you ever hear a guy talk with a smile on his face?
On first down, George throws, and it is caught, and a flag goes down at the 44-yard line. Reggie Langhorne, the receiver. And let's get the call from Ron Blum. Excuse me.
Well, there's 12 seconds on the clock as the interference call goes against the Chargers. So we do get an opportunity to see San Diego.
24 defense. The spot foul. First down.
Sandy Richard, he had that hand wrapped around the receiver early. Reggie Langhorne trying to get to the football. Here comes the hand.
There it is. The Colts still have two timeouts left, so they can work the middle of the field and stop the clock if they get in field goal range. They're now restricted to the sideline.
And Jeff George going in the direction of Sean Dawkins with only 7 ticks remaining.
Now you're pretty much restricted to the sideline.
Bill Arnsparger.
Get the completion, any kind of run, you're going to expire for 7 seconds.
But you could conceivably complete one across the middle if the guy goes down in a hurry. If he was hit and goes right down and take the timeout.
Well, we're going to hang
50-50.
Hope for the penalty, I think, as the 3 wide receivers go out to the right. Arnsparger, great defensive coach, signals his defensive scheme.
Get deep.
Barring a defensive penalty, well, I was going to say last what's going to happen in 1 seconds. Time for one more play.
I think the Colts erred by not working the middle of the field.
The first time.
Yeah, the first time. They really took, I think, the easy way in trying to throw to the sideline. They had plenty of time to complete something over the middle.
George was hoping his receiver would break back into the inside, give him some kind of opening. San Diego not fooled at all as the Colts deploy the 3 wide receivers to the right and 1 to the left.
George, after one-handing the snap, nothing but white shirts down there and out of bounds anyway. Into the half. George and the Colts leaving under a torrent of boos. B-O-O-S. 14-0. Back with halftime activities after this message from the National Football League in a word from our ABC station. We start the second half. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf, Hoosier Dome, Indianapolis, San Diego leading 14-0. And the Chargers will get the ball. Dean Biasucci sends it skyward, taken at the 9-yard line by Nate Lewis, who scored a touchdown on a pass reception in the first half, and he brings the ball back out to the 21, and there's a marker down. It's been a relatively penalty-free game. Ron Blum, who is a teaching golf professional, is the referee tonight.
I could teach golf. I don't think it would be out there taking the abuse that they take.
I could teach golf, too. I just wouldn't be able to get anybody to pay for it.
You could teach out.
Yeah. Where could I find a sucker that would want to learn anything about golf from me?
Well, make me an offer.
I am better than you. That's the only thing I feel confident about.
Penalty is against the Chargers. So they will begin deep in their own territory, but that's where they like to begin, the way things have been going tonight.
Block in the back, above the waist. Number 58 on the return team. Half the distance. First down.
Well, the Chargers have gone 97 yards and 90 yards, so they begin at the 7-yard line, trying to begin a 93-yard drive, 1st and 10. And Marion Butts falls down and scrambles back out to the 9-yard line. Tonight, in comparison to the rest of the season, in their first 10 games, 57 drives beginning at or inside the 20, 2 of them resulting in touchdowns, and tonight, 2 for 3.
Well, they hadn't played Indianapolis yet.
On 2nd and 8, Humphrey throws. That's the tight end. Derek Walker, first down.
I'm half kidding about that. Indianapolis coming in after 10 games, the 27th team in the league defensively. Well, they struggle to get points on the board. They have given up a lot of yardage.
See, Frank, most people think I'm the only one that's that cruel. Glad to see you getting in on it here.
You're right. You'll get blamed for it, though.
Probably so. You're right. The Colts tonight have been pretty much on the run defensively. Humphreys has been sharp throwing, and the guys up front are dominating for the Chargers.
1st and 10, and here's Butts. He exploits another hole here. Not only are the Colts having trouble defensively, they are minus John Hand now. We understand Rick Venturi, the defensive coordinator, that the defensive end John Hand had an IV inserted at halftime, dehydration, and his return is questionable. And offensively, Anthony Johnson, there is John Hand, at least he's back out on the field. Anthony Johnson has a sprained ankle, the running back slash receiver.
Well, the one thing about dehydrating the way Hand did to get that IV is once you get the fluids back in, you feel better in a hurry.
Here's Butts, and Marion Butts with a hurdle job and out to the 48-yard line.
Might be his longest run of the season. He doesn't make very many coming in of his 16 yards. Last year he carried it 218 times, and his longest run was 22.
But look at the blocking up front. Look at the way things are turned away. He hasn't been touched yet. That's the first time he gets touched all the way downfield by John Baylor.
That was indeed his longest run of the season, 19 yards.
I'd say he got about, what, 3-4 inches off the ground with that leap.
Humphreys underneath finds Butts, but Butts is also found immediately as he is tackled as soon as he makes the catch by Quentin Coryat.
Good look there at the second player taken in the draft, Coryat. Entman was first, Coryat was second in that unusual year back in 1992 when the Colts had both the first and the second choice in the draft. And this guy was injured his rookie year, but he has really come on, and this guy will be a star in this league for a long time to come. A pair of 55s tonight wearing that number and playing linebacker, Coryat and Sayal, a couple of good ones.
2nd and 10, and Marion Butts to the 48-yard line with 11:50 to go, third quarter. San Diego leading 14-0.
Coryat also one of the reasons the Colts thought they could go to the 4-3 with the middle linebacker very securely, because he is a fine specimen there in the middle. Good against the run. They played him on the strong side last week in last year in a 3-4, and he played so well they thought they could use him in the middle.
Better than a 2-1, almost 3-1 edge to the Chargers.
3rd down and 5. Humphreys with 3 receivers running patterns on the left side, goes that way and finds the open man at the 38, Anthony Miller. He's tackled by Eugene Daniel, and on the drive that began at the San Diego 7, they're all the way down to the Indianapolis 38.
Daniel is a designated picky tonight. They have gone against him 7-8 times.
Big John coming back in. You're right, he's being picked on, but watch this pattern. This is a pattern that takes a while to develop. It's a break off all the way back to the inside. Stan Humphreys is enjoying himself back in the pocket under a very, very sparse pass rush by the Colts.
The 37, Marion Butts to the 21-yard line.
You sense something right about now? Is one of these teams really starting to take control of the ball game about now?
Well, I sense that the Chargers, and we talked to Junior Seau about this last night, I said, what's the best game you guys have played all year? He had to sit there and think about it, and that indicates they really haven't put it together all year long. They're doing it tonight.
When you can run the football like this, pretty soon you can come with a play action, and that secondary is starting to think run. How can we help out the defensive front 7?
First down at the 22-yard line, and Stan Humphreys throws it out of bounds.
Intentionally.
And very brightly.
Somebody get a hand on hand here?
Well, he's working Let's take a look at it here on this side. That's Jonathan. And he kind of gets that left arm, but still a good work there by John Hand, getting inside, getting upfield, and putting Humphreys on the ground. Wonder what was in that IV?
Yeah, I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. 2nd and 10. Oh, boy. Marion Butts to the 15-yard line. Just dominating up front are the San Diego Chargers tonight.
Jonathan, by the way, went to Bloomsburg College in Pennsylvania. I know, Al, that you've been to the campus many times. There he is, number 74. The Bloomsburg Bomber working against Scott Radisick.
I bet this looks good to Bobby Ross. Also, we talked about the defensive players they lost. They lost their entire right side of the offensive line to free agency this past year. They just rebuilt that entire right side.
3rd and a short 4. Ronnie Harmon, he's going to be very close to a first down. They have to get to the 12-yard line. Might be close enough to measure.
Think he got there?
Nate Lewis says he's got it.
See where they put it down.
I didn't think he got there.
No, he didn't. If they put it, well,
Nate Lewis is sure of it now.
Measurement.
Well, the ball is up by the 12. Boy, I didn't think he got that far up there, but that's where the ball is spotted. I think they're about to run out of chain here.
Yeah, they're teasing us.
Ooh.
Oh, they were hiding a little on it.
Yeah.
It looked taut, and it wasn't.
Couple of extra links.
All the better for the drama.
Well, they're going to go for it, it looks like.
They will.
Yeah. And why not? You're up by 14. You are controlling the line of scrimmage pretty effectively. This is a wonderful confidence builder for an offensive team.
They bring the big rookie in, Natron Means. And they run him in as the tailback. They run Steve Hendrickson in there. The versatile one. He can play linebacker, special teams, or fullback. He's number 34, and he figures to lead the way if they hand the ball to Means. Oh, instead it's Humphreys himself on a sneak.
That depends on where they mark.
Anybody's
He did
guess.
surge forward with it.
Quarterback sneaks in this league are not all that effective. Quarterback doesn't get much of a run at it. You're more dependent upon a beneficial spot by the officials when you run a quarterback sneak. Well, the ball's inside the 12.
Oh.
This will be tight.
I don't think he got it.
No.
Nope. Well, if Indianapolis is to get back in the game, it'll come off this, where they stop San Diego after the Chargers had marched from their own 7. 8:26 to go in the third. 14-0 Chargers. Taking over at the 12, holding the Chargers on 4th and inches. Begin from there, down 14-0. Roosevelt Potts up to the 16-yard line. Two big bruising fullbacks, Butts and Potts, perfectly named.
One in the upper 240s, the other one in the upper 250s.
Not as unimaginative a running attack as you could come up with for the Colts, but they're trying to keep the Chargers pass rush at least a little bit honest.
2nd down and 6 from the 16-yard line. Jeff George. Incomplete. You know, we had talked about Jeff George, and again, the holdout. He said, and I had a chance to talk to him this morning about it, he said it was for personal reasons. It was nothing to do with the organization or the coaching staff. It wasn't a money thing. He said, I don't want to talk about the reasons right now because they would be a big distraction to this team. I will probably talk about them at the end of the season, is what he said. 3rd down and 6. George throws, and Jesse Hester can't make the catch, as Frank might have gotten a hand on it.
Well, he did it now, but Jesse Hester has made some very difficult catches all night long. That appeared to be right in the hand. And again, Jeff George able to throw across the body after being pressured out of the pocket. Doing that about as well as you can expect anyone to do it.
George is now 0 for his last 6 and 11 for 21 on the night. 3 and out for the Colts. And this is Ron Stark to punt. Line of scrimmage is the 16. Darian Gordon back to accept it. Whoa! 43-yard kick, and he's popped immediately. The ball is loose.
Darren Carrington. Oh, let's back up one time. How about if we go to the other team? Jason Belzer. What a hit.
Wow. Gordon, just this is his first time returning punts. He should have, no question, called for the fair catch. Boy, he was really popped by Belzer.
San Diego retains possession somehow.
The big hit, but you could see that Gordon muffs the ball, and it was coming out before that shot by Belzer. And the Chargers very fortunate to recover that.
Sean Van Horst recovered it. First down to the 38. Natron Means. And the good-looking rookie picks up 7. Takes it to the 45-yard line with 7:45 to go in the third quarter. And look there at Darian Gordon, their top draft choice. Bobby Beathard loves to draft defensive players in the first round. You go back to his years at Washington as well as San Diego, and there he is.
The last 5 years, we've taken players in the first round, haven't they all?
Yep. Last time he drafted his top pick was a non-defensive player. It wasn't even an offensive player in the true sense. It was Chip Lomiller, the kicker at Washington.
They might be telling Gordon right now that they're in Indianapolis. He may not know.
This is Means, and he's out to the 48, and I believe he has the first down with forward progress.
He's done well with those picks on the first round. Think about Gordon and his Junior Seau, Stanley Richard, Bert Grossman, Chris Mims. All have started, except for Grossman, who is now undergoing shoulder surgery.
There's Seau with the towel on his head. Absolutely the prototypical linebacker. Just physically perfect.
On first down, Humphreys slings one complete for another big gain, this time to Johnny Barnes, a pickup of 21 yards.
Well, keep in mind that Stan Humphreys came into tonight's game with the lowest quarterback rating in the league. This guy had a rating of something like 49, and that's because of the shoulder injury that he got in the final preseason game. He just couldn't effectively throw the ball early in the season, and we've been told that he is all the way back. And look at the way he is throwing the ball tonight. There is no question of that. Over 200 yards, as you see, a pair of touchdowns. And Stan Humphrey, his shoulder appears to me to be just fine.
Means.
Speaking of fine, he is running well tonight. Macron Means, the rookie out of North Carolina. You know, when Humphreys came in a year ago, they came in from Washington. Consequently, it wasn't all that tough a deal for him to get accustomed to the San Diego Charger offense, because the Charger offense, basically, Bobby Ross stayed with the system numerically that was brought in by Dan Henning, a former Washington Redskins coach. And so Humphreys, when he left the Redskins to come to the Chargers and John Freese went down, he just stepped in numerically. It was the same system he knew, and so it was an easy change for Stan Humphreys.
At the 17-yard line, Means again to the 13-yard line. Natron Means, and they looked at him very closely in the draft. All general managers will tell you when in the second round you got a guy available who they felt was a first rounder, they pick him. But in particular, when Rod Bernstein left to go to Denver, they knew they had a spot to fill in the backfield, and he figures to be the guy. And in fact, the way things are going right now, Means will clearly be the starter in '94, maybe before this season.
He's a good-looking back. I mean, they're only 21 years old, I think, and
he'd still be a senior in college. This would be his senior year at North Carolina, and he would be a redshirt senior. This would have been his true senior year.
Means escapes a would-be John Hain tackle, and then Dwayne Beckett is there.
Well, the Colt defense came up with a big play on 4th and short the last time the Chargers were down here with a football. There's a double team and a good look at John Hand driving upfield, getting through the block of Stan Brock and making the play, stopping it. Dwayne Bickett comes in and cleans up. And once again, Rick Venturi's defensive team has to come up big again, down by 14. There's no margin for error whatsoever now for Indianapolis.
3rd and 11, 3:44 to go, third quarter. San Diego leading 14-0 and trying to make it 21, almost, but incomplete off the fingertips of Anthony Miller.
And that's one he more often than not would come down with. That was placed well by Stan Humphrey.
Ray Buchanan with the coverage. Now, John Carney, earlier this season, Carney's the guy who kicked 6 field goals on opening day and then 6 more week 3. And set the NFL record 29 in a row.
That's Buchanan making a play against Anthony Miller.
36-yard attempt for John Carney. His new record streak is in jeopardy. Norm Johnson of Atlanta has 25 in a row currently. And Carney's kick is good. 36-yarder. 3:33 to go in the third. 17-0. Bolts. Coming in last in the league, and they've given up 17 points and a ton of yardage tonight.
At least you can say the last 2 times that San Diego was deep, all they got out of it was 1 field goal.
Carney's kick is taken at the 1-yard line by Clarence Verdun. He runs east and west.
That worked out pretty good.
Yeah. About a 45-yard run back laterally and 1 yard vertically. Stanley Richard wraps him up. San Diego special teams coach Chuck Prefer, quite happy. Different story on the other side. Brad Seeley can only shake his head. What happened, he says.
They could go back to the start of the season, have Jeff George not hold out, not lose some of their key players to injury, and they are left to wonder about what could have been here in Indianapolis.
I've bet on a few horses that have run that way recently. First down for Indianapolis in the 2.
You've owned a few that run like that.
That too. Incomplete.
They met untimely ends, but
coming back. Reggie Langhorne, the intended receiver.
Well, when you haven't run the ball effectively all night, and now you're down 17-0, the threat of a running game is a hollow one indeed for the Colts. If they're to get back, the only way will be on the arm of number 11.
2nd and 10. George running around the end zone. Hits Rodney Culver. He's out to the 11-yard line, and he's a little short of the first down.
You don't want to spend too much time analyzing one play. But if we're going to wonder what might have been, what happens if instead of the interception on their first possession on the pass by Anthony Johnson, what happens if the Colts go on in and take a 7-0 lead? How different is it?
3rd and 1, and they convert. That's Terry Cash. I think it'd be 17-7.
Could be.
And Jeff George is hurt. Don Mikowski is the backup quarterback. And so Mikowski, the former Packer, begins to loosen up as Jeff George is on the turf.
Hard to ascertain what the pain is at the moment, but it's very painful. Hit
He gets one
back, and that could well
Chris
be it.
Mims. Looks like it might have been the second hit by Mims that was right back in that kidney area. Blaze Winter was in there, but it looked like the toughest that was delivered by Mims.
Well, you wear a pad right over that area. Most quarterbacks do, but he took quite a shot from the 290-pound Chris Mims, who getting his first starting role as a defensive end with the loss of Bert Grossman for the Chargers. And he looks acting like he's maybe limping a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like he's not eager to put a lot of weight on that right leg.
Yeah.
And this is cool. This is a nice hand here by the Colt fans, and you hope that they're cheering Jeff George getting better and not the arrival of Don Mikowski. I don't know quite how to interpret it.
I think it's a combination. There were some who were cheering when George went down initially, but there are rubes everywhere.
Here was a rocket for a while at Green Bay. 87, and
all these stats were in their game against the Cowboys earlier this year. You're right about that, Frank. Don Mikowski was a shooting star. Burned awful brightly for a while up in Green Bay, and it has been all but extinguished.
They call him magic. First down from the 20-yard line. Roosevelt Potts picks up 2. We have 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. And we'll get a report as soon as we can on the condition of Jeff George.
We're looking at that right leg. He was in the grasp of Blaze Winter before he was hit by Chris Mims.
Mikowski, second down and 8. Throwing, and they indicated is caught by Jesse Hester.
It's going to be a personal foul, I think.
Flag is down. Personal foul against Indy. Might be Kirk Loudermilk, the center. Watch the center here, Loudermilk.
He's number 63 there, right there with Mikowski. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
He goes back and starts pushing the helmet of one of the Chargers who was down on the ground. He didn't seem to throw a punch.
The Charger on top of his teammate Zephyrus Moss.
It's not smart to go back and accost somebody who's on the ground, but that's what happened. And once again, the Colts are in a big hole. Jeff George, we're being told, is a sprained right knee, and they're still trying to ascertain whether he'll be back. It's questionable right now.
Third down 17. They run a draw to Potts. He fumbles the ball. And, boy, that really sums up the night for the Colts. Chris Mims recovers it.
I think Junior Seau might have knocked it out. Seau comes across, and I think he gets a left hand on the ball and breaks it loose. Well, that's when you're a big-time player, you're supposed to do stuff like this. And take a look. He'll move to his left. And, boy, it wasn't much of a hit to knock the ball away from Potts. Potts didn't have that ball very secure.
It wasn't even intentional on the part of Seau.
No. He just threw his arm out there, and the ball came loose. The Chargers leave their entire offensive team over on the sidelines, and then they trot out as a group, go right to the line of scrimmage and run a play, not giving the defense a chance to see what personnel are coming out.
Well, that's pretty effective down inside the 10-yard line.
Sure is.
Saves any kind of defensive changes that you might get.
First and goal. Marion Butts picks up 6, takes it to the 2. It'll be second and goal with a minute to go in the third quarter. And the Chargers, in very much a do-or-die game, are doing it. Trying to stay alive in that playoff hunt. They go back next week, and Bobby Ross's team plays their next 2 games at home against Denver and against Green Bay.
Doesn't get any easier. They got Kansas City and Miami. We'll have that one for you on the 27th.
George here trying to get limber on the Colts sideline.
Second and goal. Bucks to the 1. Third down and goal with 25 ticks remaining in the third quarter. Coriat makes the tackle.
Humphreys is heading for the Charger sideline. Looks like they'll be more than willing to run this at the start of the fourth quarter.
That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to let it tick down.
And we'll begin the fourth quarter with the score. San Diego 17, Indianapolis nothing. Back with the fourth quarter of Monday Night Football after this from our ABC station. We start the fourth quarter at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. Al Michaels along with Frank Gifford and Dan Dierdorf in what is very much the house of frustration for these fans. Their team down 17-0. Third and goal. San Diego from the 1-yard line. Humphreys gives the ball to Marion Butts, and he sails into the end zone for a touchdown.
He couldn't even find anyone to run over that time. Butts having a big night.
So they capitalize on the fumble by Roosevelt Potts. Butts scores. And the San Diego Chargers playing their best game of the season on both sides of the ball, now leading 23-0.
Big gaping hole as San Diego has started to completely dominate the line of scrimmage.
Behind Stan Brock. John Carney for the point after, and John Kidd to hold. And the Chargers on their way to going 5-6, leading 24-0.
Well, I think they have come together on both sides of the ball better than they've been all year. I mean, defensively, they played superbly tonight.
Think back to what Bobby Ross told us last night. 6 in a row. That's what we have to do. Well, after tonight, it's 5 in a row. And playing like this, and the way they did it last year, this team's capable of pulling it off.
Carney's kick is taken by Verdun. Clarence brings it back out to the 21, and a flag is thrown.
Well, that'll be holding, I think, against number 81 of the Colts, Charles Arbuckle. He had a backup tight end, had a handful of Charger jersey. That's a guess on my part. I shouldn't be so bold, but at 24-0, I'll take a wild chance.
Holding 81 of the return team. 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
You are so precious.
Even the blind hog will find an acorn every now and then.
You're precious, too.
Thank you.
Timeout. Don't touch that dial.
I didn't know you cared.
Hold out of here.
It's like saying...
I guess Army is the home team,
yep.
so...
Well, tune in next week for Hardy and Laurel, would you?
The middies and the cadets. We'll just...
From the 9-yard line, here is the pass caught by Roosevelt Potts. And Jeff George back in the game after being shaken up. Well, Paul Tagliabue, the commissioner, is here. He will head to Chicago after the game. The new franchise will be named tomorrow. You know that the Panthers of Carolina are already in. And will it be Jacksonville? Will it be St. Louis? Will it be Baltimore? Will it be Memphis? Well, the answer will be known by this time tomorrow night as the catch is made over the middle by Jesse Hester. One team, and I'm telling you, Dan, we've talked to a lot of people today, and I don't know who the favorite is anymore.
Oh, well, I think it goes without saying there isn't a favorite. I think it goes behind closed doors tomorrow, and it's a free-for-all. And I was talking to Alex Spanos, the owner of the Chargers, before the game, and he and I both were kind of expressing the same thought. It's a shame what's going to happen to the three cities who don't get a team, because it's going to be absolutely impossible to measure their frustration after having invested millions of dollars and years of community involvement and activity and come up without a team. It's going to be hard for those three cities, and I feel for it.
Langhorne made the last catch for a first, and Alex Spanos is on the
right there.
Expansion committee, so he goes to Chicago as well. Well, you know what's going to happen after one of the teams is named tomorrow. As this play is dead before its inception, it's pretty clear that if, let's say, Baltimore doesn't get a team in particular, they've already begun discussions and trying to entice the L.A. Rams to think about going east. The Cincinnati Bengals expressing their displeasure with the stadium situation at the moment. And the cities that don't wind up with a team are all of a sudden going to start making a few phone calls.
73 offense, 5 yards, repeat first down.
And that is a concern to the owners of the NFL. They're well aware of that. There's Bob Irsay, the the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's effectively run on a day-to-day basis by his son Jim.
Too bad you couldn't say that the other teams that are not picked will be designated down the line, and they will have an option, so to speak.
Well, it's one of the possibilities, Frank, they're talking about is that naming, saying that within a couple years after 95, 97 or 98, that, well, a fumble.
Randy Culver loses the ball, and Junior Seau picks it up, and he loses the football. And who's going to wind up with it?
Cruz, I believe.
Leslie O'Neal.
Or is that Neil O'Neal?
San Diego's going to get it.
He's walking off with it.
And that kind of a night for Indianapolis continues. It was knocked loose by James Fuller, picked up by Seau.
Oh, he tried to lateral it.
By O'Neal.
He threw it back to O'Neal. Now, who, at the end of that last play, made a ill-fated lateral attempt to Leslie O'Neal. He didn't go anywhere with it, and he's lucky he held on to it.
Eric Bieniemy carries for the first time tonight, picks up 5. Second down and 5 at the 48-yard line. Eric Bieniemy picks up 5 to the 43. That's a first down.
I want to make one last point while we're talking about the expansion process. One of the things that we've heard kicked around is that maybe tomorrow the NFL might make an announcement about future expansion, maybe even taking place before the end of the century. So maybe there will be some hope dangling out there for the 3 cities that come up short tomorrow.
Ball is given to Bieniemy again. He takes it to the 39. Well, very low-scoring games this weekend. 14 games in the NFL. The winning team with 20 or fewer points in 10 of those games. If there are no more points scored in this game tonight, this would complete the lowest scoring weekend since 1970, the year of the merger. Total points per game right there at the moment, assuming no further scoring is done tonight, 27.2.
Well, the question is, does a San Diego touchdown put it over 27.4?
It would. It would go up to 388 with the extra point. And on an end around here, this is Nate Lewis.
Whoa, it's a very nifty running on the part of Nate Lewis.
All over the joint.
All the flags are flying.
Well, one thing about the low-scoring weekend, it's very easy to understand.
Well, there's no issue we cover here that you're just not over it completely. And this is a face mask that goes against the Colts of Indianapolis. Take a look at it right there.
So obvious when that head snaps around like that. And
Jason
I might
Belzer.
say also dangerous. That's Jason Belzer.
He's been all around the football tonight.
Nate Lewis with some good moves to get to the outside.
And it looks like this is the 15-yard variety.
The guy when you don't let go.
Yep.
And those points are in danger.
24-0.
Will Wolford there on the right, the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. Eric Jonathan with the fancy haircut.
Here's Bieniemy picking up 4. Third-year back out of Colorado. Pretty much reduced to special teams and a backup role now. Well, the San Diego Chargers just staying alive. They'll be 3 back of Kansas City as the Chiefs still lead things. But Bobby Ross's team taking on Denver next week. That's a very big game. It'll be Kansas City 8-3, Denver 7-4,
Well,
Raiders 6-5, and San Diego 5-6 along with Seattle.
Well, you make a great point. Consider the state of the AFC West. That this is a football team that's tied for last place in the division. I mean, how good a football are they playing over there? Certainly from top to bottom, the most competitive division in the NFL, when the worst team in the division is 5-6.
And it looks like Montana may well be back for the rest of the season.
That was Bieniemy taking the ball inside the 5. It'll be 1st and goal. On the subject of of close races. No team has more than a one-game lead in any of the 6 divisions this deep into the season, and that hasn't happened since 1980.
Who would have thought after 11 games the Giants would be leading Dallas by a game in the NFC East?
Here's Bieniemy, and Eric Bieniemy. Did he cross the plane? Yes, he did. Touchdown, San Diego.
I can't. Every time I look at the standings, I can't get past Miami being at 9-2. First, they lose Marino, then they lose Mitchell. Now they've got Steve DeBerg quarterbacking the ball club, and they're 9-2.
Well, if you're going to get a backup quarterback, as we take a look at Bieniemy's touchdown again, Steve DeBerg has had some great games in his career, and Don Shula is the best. He's been documented over and over at bringing in backup quarterbacks and continuing to win.
Bieniemy with his first touchdown of the season. John Carney for the point after.
Shula has a great sense of what a quarterback can do.
Carney bangs it through. Well, at least you can say it's closer than last week. 31-0 with 9:31 to go in the 4th. Mikowski is back in. George was shaken up, came back in for a series, and now they're not going to fool around. Risk further injuries. Down 31-zip. Catch is made at the 29-yard line by Kerry Cash. The average margin of victory in a Monday night game this year has been 16 points. So we have seen a few one-sided affairs. The rest of the league averaging an 11-point differential this season, which is above the norm.
This might get us up to 17 points.
Yes. This is Roosevelt Potts up to the 32-yard line.
We talked the schedule of San Diego for the Colts. They'll be at the Meadowlands 2 weeks in a row. Next week at the Jets, and then the following week against the Giants.
3rd down and 1 at the 33-yard line, and a draw. Roosevelt Potts takes it up to the 40-yard line. Next week, we head down to Irving, Texas. We make our only appearance of the year in Texas Stadium as the Dallas Cowboys, a team we've not seen on Monday night since opening night this year, take on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Philadelphia finally getting another win over Washington.
Ooh, Junior Seau almost had a pick. Seau with 2 interceptions this season. You know, we were talking about Seau before and how great he is and all of that, yet he's gone through the year. Granted, he plays a lot in coverage, but he does not have a sack, not one. And when we asked Bobby Ross about him last night, his exact quote was, has had a reasonably good year. Sometimes expectations are too high.
Well, then we asked him about the year he was having. He was very honest and very realistic about the year. He said, look, I'm expected to make the plays. We're losing. When we lose, I should be making more plays. He knows the kind of player he's expected to be.
2nd and 10, and Mikowski's pass is right through the hands of Jesse Hester, who had a great first half, but simply can't handle a very catchable ball here.
That's the type of concentration you see sometimes when you're trailing 31-0. That's a loss of focus by Jesse Hester, and not a great effort to boot. And you're right, he did have a marvelous first half.
I think he was thinking sideline there, and he had a lot of room.
3rd down and 10. Mikowski's throw is a little bit behind Langhorne and incomplete.
You know, that is really a well-thrown ball, but it was thrown behind the receiver, but had he led the receiver, that thing could have been picked off. A good coverage by Pope. Well, Mikowski with a good delivery.
4th down, 7:53 remaining. It'll be a happy flight home for the San Diego Chargers. They play Denver next week and Green Bay the following week.
Smilon Jack on my right here will also be flying home. Big Dan is
that's right.
Home plane.
Take to the air. Whoa, a little fake here.
Ooh.
Good idea.
And Gordon loses the ball, but only after he hit the AstroTurf, and it's San Diego's ball at the 25-yard line.
Darian might want to think that over again.
Well, Jack Riley's got to be a happy man tonight. He's watched Stan Humphries do a heck of a job.
Jack calls the plays down from the press box.
Oh, good look at the loose ball on the field. Craig Janoff directing tonight, and our ace crew never misses a thing. Kenny Wolf producing.
John Freese will close this one out as Humphries sits down for the rest of the night after a big night for him. Eric Bieniemy. And they'll just run as much time as they can off the clock. John Freese had been the starter ever since Humphries needed more time to get back to 100%. And Humphries has been everything Bobby Ross had hoped he would be. And now Freese will finish this one out. And there is Stan, who is all the way back, apparently, after tonight's performance.
Looks pretty sharp for a guy making his first start in 6 weeks.
I like him. He loves to just let it go every now and then. Bobby Ross was talking about it last night. That touchdown pass he threw early in the game to Sean Jefferson, I think that's what Bobby Ross was talking about. He says he just likes to air it out every now and then.
Here's Bieniemy. Eric out at the 34-yard line, very close to a first down.
How about the way their offensive line played tonight when you consider that 3 of their 5 starters from last year aren't here? Broderick Thompson left. Dave Richards is gone. Eric Moten is hurt. And as you can see right there, 1977 is back in the lead.
Yep.
93 has fallen all the way into second place. And now could they possibly overtake 1991?
Stay tuned. Bobby Beathard and Alex Spanos very, very happy about what's taking place tonight. Bobby will head down to the locker room to congratulate the troops. And here's Bieniemy. He picks up 7 yards. That's 221 yards rushing tonight for the Chargers. So a perfectly balanced attack with what Humphries has done through the air and a great ground game. And defensively, they played near flawlessly. And San Diego clearly playing its best game of the year.
Well, we touched on it earlier. The Colts came in here 26th in the league against the rush. And it could have been worse. The teams were very successful passing against them.
Last time these teams met last year, Chargers shut the Colts out 26-0. Bieniemy, first down. These two teams met twice last year. You know, it's a point we haven't touched on tonight. Both these teams went into this year with very high expectations coming off last year. You go back to 91, each had finished last in a 5-team division, meaning they each last season played that very soft 5th-place schedule. And now this year, the schedule has gotten much tougher for both teams. And you cannot, I think, overemphasize the way things have turned out, teams that play that 5th-place schedule. And what it means. Not to diminish what the Detroit Lions have done this year, but they are the beneficiary of last year's same-place schedule.
You're right. And quite realistically, that's the purpose of the 5th-place schedule. It's right in line with the reverse order of the draft and every other aspect of the National Football League. It is to help those that are down to get back and reach a competitive level once again.
Keep things competitive.
Yeah.
It dawns on me that a lot of people might not even know what we're talking about. For instance, that guy right there.
We all know Richie Westline has no idea what's going on.
So, Richie, let me tell you, man. If you finish 5th, what the league does, it's a format that's designed even before the season's completed. You're given what is, in effect, a much easier schedule the following year. In terms of playing teams that finish with inferior records. First down.
Good looking screen.
Ronnie Harmon up to the 47-yard line.
Ronnie Harmon relatively quiet tonight. Such a key factor in the San Diego offense. Working out of the backfield on 3rd down situations. Came into tonight, 45 receptions, 79 a year ago. Kind of quiet tonight. Really didn't need it.
Little over 4 minutes to play. Chargers leading 31-0. Second and 9. Freeze on a delay. And Ronnie Harmon takes it to the 45-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 1. Chargers going to the playoffs last year. That was the first time they'd been there since '82. Indianapolis now completing its 10th year in this city, and they've only been to the playoffs once. One game. They lost that one to Cleveland after the '88 season.
And the amazing thing is, it has not been because of lack of effort by the Ursays. They have made big trades. They have paid a lot of money. They have really put forth a legitimate effort to try to improve this franchise.
Here's Means.
You know, some franchises are, I think, justifiably criticized by some of their fans for having low payrolls, for never seeming to make a move when they have a glaring weakness on their squad, not filling it with some talent. And you certainly can't say that. And there's Jim Irsay right there. You cannot ever say that about the Colts. They
think back to the Eric Dickerson
trade,
and the trade for the number 1 pick for Jeff George.
And
just
moved
a lot of people around.
Just think about their immediate concern this year was they had to have help on the offensive line. So they go out, they pay Will Wolford $2.6 million this year. Kirk Loudermilk is getting like $2.2 million. They aggressively attack their problems.
They signed Will Wolford and then brought him in and operated on his shoulder. They weren't sure he could even go on and play.
It just hasn't translated into wins and losses.
I said after the '88 season, it was actually in January of '88, end of the '87 season is when they went to the playoffs at one time, and it was Dickerson who helped lead them there. He was going to take them to the promised land, but it was hardly a round trip.
Eric Dickerson never took anybody to the promised land.
No, sir. Back we come after this message from the National Football League.
He's a real dome. Here comes another dome. We've got 2 real domes and 1 wannabe.
Great.
Guess who's winning this ball game?
The look of a group up 31-0.
If you didn't know what the score was, I bet you'd guess that the Chargers are leading.
Well, the Chargers haven't been on Monday Night Football since 1986. The last time they were on a Monday night, Plummer was one of the 2 guys who was on the team, and Leslie O'Neal was the other. Second and 1 at the 33-yard line as this one winds down.
Last time they were on Monday night, Ronald Reagan was present.
Right. 86.
Last time the Colts were on, Dan Quayle was in the booth. Is that right?
I believe so.
He was, indeed. 90.
Was he here tonight?
Yeah, he was here earlier.
Yeah, you know, Chris Schenkel was here tonight.
Here also.
Our man Chris, who lives in Bippus, Indiana. And every time I see Schenk, I think about the Pro Bowlers Tour, which comes away again in January right here on ABC.
Doesn't Schenk live somewhere by Lake Tippecanoe?
That's correct. And Tyler, too.
Yeah. He'll be reunited with Bo Burton, and away they go, huh?
Yep. You know, it's always tough to make that 7-10 split, I'll tell you that.
They'll be there and make the year for all those Keglers.
That's right.
Pins will be flying.
Now, when does that kick off, Al?
Yeah, I think it's January 22nd.
Yeah. Is that 3 o'clock?
They'll be going for those old 7-10 splits.
Yep.
Man, it makes my heart flutter.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. The Pro Bowlers Tour. Right here. .122 to go. And Eric Bieniemy goes nowhere, so they'll run one more play, and Chargers will get on a very happy charter home.
Dan has his own charter.
Darn right. They'll be flying a little higher than I will. The old Baron doesn't get that high.
And Elmo's will be open.
Then again, I don't have to go as far. Well, they said they need 6 in a row. Now they need 5. They crawl back to 5 and 6.
Will that do it?
Oh, 10-6? Yeah, 10-6. So
It'll
almost certainly get you in.
It'll get you to the playoffs. It might not win the division, but right now they're just thinking about getting into postseason play. 9-7 might get you in. 10-6.
Yeah. 9-7 has gotten some teams in. It's left some teams home.
Right. 10-6 occasionally doesn't get a team in. To win the 49ers 2 years ago.
No.
So Bobby Ross in his second season as the head coach of the San Diego Chargers. In the 11th game of the year, watches his team turn in a vintage performance. It's the most points the Chargers have scored this season, and clearly the fewest points they have allowed. In fact, in no game this season did they hold the opposition to single figures. Ted Marchibroda's team is now 3-8, and we take this traveling circus to Irving, Texas next week, where the Philadelphia Eagles will visit the Dallas Cowboys. San Diego wins 31-0. Till next week, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deardorff. Good night from Indianapolis.